Okay, the last show of Season 3. It's episode 13. We'll talk about it in a second. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and The Hope is in You Part 2. Now, the naming of this episode is kind of interesting because when the first episode came about, it was The Hope is in You Part 1, and it's odd that they didn't follow it immediately with a Part 2. And they did here, and what it does, in effect, is it rounds out the entire story of Burnham finding herself. Now, it seems to be a minor plot point in this particular episode, but it essentially goes there. So we have Burnham coming into the 32nd century, not knowing where she fits in, not knowing anybody. Now she has friends. She is reconnected with the Discovery. She is has a place in Starfleet, and she has a purpose. That's what the name of the episode goes for. We'll start it out, and there's liable to be spoilers here. I can't promise there won't be because it's just such a good episode. We had to hurry up and get it out before I can really get it out of my system. We have a situation where, of course, Osira did not reach an agreement with Admiral Vance and got back on Discovery and was going to take it to some other place. And Vance was not going to let her get away with the spore drive, even though Stamets was thrown off the ship. In fact, he has Stamets set off to a safe place, much to his objection, because he wants to be on the ship so they can go back and rescue Hugh and the others. And so what we have here is a situation where they're firing on Discovery, and the main crew, which has now teamed up with the Dot 23s, is trying to get control of the ship. And they're not quite sure what their plan is, but Osira has moved all of the regulators to the upper decks and has eliminated, or is slowly eliminating, the atmosphere on everything, say, below deck 5. And with this, they are slowly running out of air. They have some portable oxygen that they're taking from engineering and trying to come up with a plan, but don't really have anything that they think would work. However, Michael does have an idea, and she is able, by using the communicator that she had stolen from one of the regulators, to be able to get kind of a coded message to them. So now they have a plan of action to knock the ship out of warp and to allow some kind of rescue attempt. Now, there are a lot of complications in here. We have the Federation ships. We have the Ni'Var, who are not Federation members, but because of the past episodes in which they were encountered, they have contributed their ships to a distress call that Burnham sent out. She's having to argue with the Admiral about how they shouldn't destroy the ship and that, trust me, trust me, trust me. And tries to play the game with Osira as well. It goes with various levels of success, and it ends up with a great deal of action among all of the bridge crew, all of the Osira's people, and especially Book, her genius scientist, and of course Michael. So without giving up too much of this, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of suspense, there's a lot of wondering if somebody is going to die or not. This is the last episode of the season, and we can't guarantee that everybody's going to live through this. And we learned some things, though. There is a subspace element of dilithium. Now, this is something that's talked about in the B story, which is now back on the planet, where we have our situation with Saru and the Kelpian, who has been lost on a holodeck. He has to face his fears before he can leave, and they have to be careful because last time he faced his fears, it caused another wave that could have caused another burn if it had been any more severe. So there's a lot of world building here, if you will, with relationship building, really, between Saru and Su'Kal. And so with this working in here while they're fighting against time and trying to find out if the last outburst by Su'Kal has damaged the ship enough to where they're going to be able to be saved in time, it's all a timing thing. In there, we find out, though, that dilithium has a subspace effect. We understand this. It emits a radiation in real space and in subspace, and apparently the burn was caused by his reaction, Su'Kal's reaction on this dilithium-filled planet that caused the subspace property of dilithium to then activate everything else in subspace, which is why they only went whenever the ships were at warp. So that was what caused the burn. Their idea is move Su'Kal away from this big pile of dilithium and everything will be okay. So they've kind of solved that. Now, meanwhile, there's a number of good fight scenes on a turbolift where the doors are open and you can see the waveguides in which the turbolift goes. A lot of free space inside the ship, interestingly, where there's a fight, and then there are the direct conflict between Osira and Michael, which is also very action-oriented, and you never quite know who's going to win on that. And then the situation with the Dot 23s. They seem to be clay pigeons during much of the phaser fights. And, of course, only one of them has the sphere data in it, and there's some concern of losing that one. So that is all going on. There is a good joke in there where during the fight scene with Book, they say, "Who's going to make a bigger stain on the ground, you or that fat cat of yours?" And as he knocks the guy out of the turbolift, he says, "She's a queen." Anyway. This is the first time we've ever seen a warp core actually ejected. They always talked about it in previous Trek series, but they actually show it being thrown down a tube and bouncing against it as it goes out. And they have found a novel way in order to spore jump without Stamets on board. That's also kind of a nail biter because it doesn't quite work. So there's a lot of action, there's a lot of suspense, there's a lot of wordplay, there's a lot of making connections, if you will, between characters. And for the first time, everybody else can see Gray because of the holodeck situation that Su'Kal is in. So up to this point, only Tal could see Gray, but as when they beamed into the holodeck representation with Su'Kal, we find that we can now see Gray, and Gray can be seen by everybody that's there, and it's something that he is now very interested in continuing on, and that is giving some foreshadowing into the next season that maybe there's a way that they can technologically fix it to where Gray can be seen by everybody else on the crew, maybe similar to the holographic Doctor in that we've seen in most of the time Discovery, but in other places as well since then. A great show, a great season. They promise for next season that they are going to have more exploration, diplomatic missions, and self-contained episodes. There was more this season with a few arcs, and there's going to be more of that next season. It seems to have worked out pretty well. The episode ends with a quote from Gene Roddenberry, which is very touching, and they even leave with the original series music, and I think it's appropriate. So, highly recommended. I think this is a very worthy end to this season, and I hope you agree. But if you don't, even if you do or don't, why not say something in the comments? We'd love to hear from you. And please do click on the subscription button if you have not already, and the bell so you know when the next video is coming your way. I don't know how soon we're going to have another Star Trek series, but as soon as we do, we will, of course, be here. We're going to be covering some other things as they come about, possibly the Star Wars, Clone Wars cartoon series. We know it's in advanced seasons, but we may do some groupings of seasons and give you some general reviews of that. That will be upcoming. But until we see you again, don't go far.